Welcome everybody. Today's video is a fun collaboration with Tegan of Animals and Arcana and Lennox Reese, who is creator of Coastal Curiosities Oracle, Peculiar Pathways Tarot, and Folkloric Forest Tarot. So not only are the three of us lovers of decks, we are also lovers of dice. And so we wanted to take this opportunity to share our joy with you all. So in this video, I'm gonna start off with how I first began with dice. And then of course, I'm gonna move into showing you all of my dice and the accessories that I have. Then I will discuss how I pair my dice with the tarot, how I use my dice with my decks, and show you the different various pairings. Now, I won't go through all of my decks with all of those pairings because it would take forever, but I will do my best to pick and choose. And then finally, I will talk a little bit about how I use dice in other ways that don't involve tarot. So grab a cuppa and a snack. I actually started using dice like over 3 years ago. And I even have a short demo video talking about how I use dice to select my cards. And at that time, I was just buying like singles of mainly D6s and D12s. You know, I wasn't buying the D&D polyhedral sets because I don't play D&D. So I was only using, 2 dice at a time. And it wasn't until 2024, last year, when I bought my first 2 sets of polyhedral dice, the D&D dice. And I know I've shown them in a previous video, but I can't remember which one. I told myself, you know what? I am gonna learn dice divination, and then I can eventually maybe learn D&D and other dice games. And so, yeah, I bought these 2 sets. They were very inexpensive. So I thought, why not? And that is really when the roll of dice became just a lot more fun. I mean, it was fun before, but now just having all of these other beautiful and fun set options like available to me, buying them in these D&D sets as opposed to just like in loose singles, I started definitely going down the rabbit hole, and the dice goblin was slowly emerging. We are now going to take a look at all of my dice. I have tried to group them into categories the best I could. Some of these dice can fit into more than one category, but we're just gonna go with what I came up with. This first category is what I would describe as my single tone dice. So overall, these have one flat color. And to start off, these were my very first sets of dice that I bought 3+ years ago, and even used these to make the demo video. And I don't know why I went this big. I think I just found them a lot of fun. I was looking for D12s in particular, and I loved these colors, and they were affordable. I think these were called like mathematical dice or something like that. They are, sentimental because this is how I started using dice. And then we have these translucents. So we have this really dark purple, the pink, yellow, and teal. These are D20s, sorry. These are D20s. And I use these in any combination of pairs, depending on the deck, because they're all very complementary to each other. And then we have these minty dice here. I think these are fun because you have the pink numbering, and like the mint kind of seafoam color has become one of my favorite colors. And so I did want a dice in this shade. I got these, I think, off eBay. And I will say, in the pictures, they looked a bit paler, but I don't mind that they came out brighter in person. I still think they're fun and they're pretty. This next category makes up like my shimmer glitter dice sets. These are some of my favorites. This is like one of my favorite pairs. These are just D20s, and they're just like a simple black with a shimmer. I just think they're so pretty. And then we have another pair of, I think these are D12s. And I had bought these pretty early on when I started with dice. And I just love how they have little stars inside. And then these two that I've paired up together, usually with like pairs like this, you know, I've bought them as loose singles and just pair them up. But I have a shimmery white that I usually pair up with this shimmery red. Now these two here are the first D&D sets that I bought, which was last year, because I bought them together. They came as like two sets together for like, I want to say less than $10. And you'll probably be noticing a theme with like the colors I gravitate towards. So we have like this darker kind of purple, and it's like two-toned. And then what I call my unicorn set. We have like kind of like a purple and blues. Some of them have more purple, some of them have more blues. So we have those. And then another set that I'm absolutely in love with, this D&D set, is like a candy red. Like I want to eat these, you know? They look delicious. Here we have just a pretty pale pink. These I would say are my most expensive because they actually came from the UK. But I decided to splurge. I would say I think it's like about the cost of like a mass market deck. This was exactly the shade and shimmer that I was looking for. Like this specific kind of like, you know, lilac color of purple with this intense shimmer. So I splurged on these, and I'm so happy that I did because they're gorgeous. And this one actually came with, you know, not just a regular D20, but this huge ass D20. This is called the name is called Arctic Sky. This is Moonbeam, and these are from a US based company called Fenwick and Finch. And this is more of a lavender color, right? Lavender has more like the gray cool tones. And what's fun about Fenwick and Finch is that they give you a D6 where they have little animal paws as their pips, like little cat paws, because I think here's the cat. So I think that's adorable. I really love these. Sometimes like the numbering is a little hard to see, but it's not a huge deal because they are so beautiful. So I make allowances. This next category is what I call the marbled or pearlescent dice. So first off, we have these marbled 3 that I, once again, mix and match into, you know, any which combination of pairs. So we have a blue and a marbled red and a green. And then same thing with these 3. This is more of like a slate, a fuchsia, and I call this oxidized copper. Then we have this D&D set, which is just like a simple white pearlescent. And then we have caramel. And this color, which I also very much enjoy, and I believe this was called Grass Emerald. And then finally these two, which are an older set that I've had for a few years now. These are just more of like the classic dice with pips. This last category and my remaining sets of dice are what I call, fun patterns and designs. And we'll start off with this D&D set, which I call Blood and Bone. This is a very popular pattern that many dice companies have. Very easy to find. And then we have these Fennec and Finch dice called Candy Rainbow. I had to have me a set of rainbow dice, and these particular shades called to me, so more like a pastel rainbow. These are just some fun like D6s that I found. So one is like a bumblebee. What is he holding there? I think he's like holding some type of like popsicle there, and he's in like a bucket, which I don't understand, but we'll go with it. I just thought it was really cute. And then I can pair this up with any number of other, dice sets that I have, like just grabbing a die from one of the sets. Like for instance, I could pair this up with my grass emerald. I think that looks great. So fun options. Also fun options with the unicorn. Unicorn on the heart. So once again, like this one, I would maybe pair up with, I don't know, unicorn. Oh my gosh, this could go with so many things, but just as an example. I call this like my Halloween set. I don't know why this reminds me so much of Halloween, but it does. And you'd be surprised at how many decks like this actually pairs up well with. And then finally, we have my set of minis. This is from Chessex, and this is called Festive Carousel. So, yeah, the companies that I tend to buy from, like, or where I usually find my dice, it'll be eBay. There are definitely affordable ones on Amazon, but I've been going to eBay and, US based companies like Fennec and Finch. I think there's one called like Bryce Dice or something to that effect. Chessex. There are just so many out there and so many options to choose from. But these are so much fun. I do feel like I might need to buy me some more mini sets. So let's move on to dice storage and accessories. This is a more recent development in dice storage because it turns out Matt had these two empty cigar boxes that his dad had given him, asking if Matt would have any use for them. And so Matt gave me one thinking that I could store my dice in them. I am really loving this whole cigar box storage method. Let us take a look. You'll see what I mean. Like, look at that. Isn't that just a feast for the eyes? So good. And now I'm on the hunt for like where I can find empty cigar boxes or like similar storage. I just love being able to see all of my dice like lined up like this. And I mean, I know that other dice collectors have used those jewelry bead containers, you know, the ones where they have like separate square compartments to separate out different styles of beads. I've seen that. That is a possible contender, but I really do prefer this. This is pretty amazing to me. So Matt will not give me his other cigar box, but maybe my father-in-law will have extras that I can steal from him. And then for the rest, it is this ugly box that Matt also gave to me. He's a knife collector, and so some of the knives come in like nice boxes like this. And so he just took out the sponge insert and gave me a few of these. And so I thought, okay, I'll just slap a sticker over the ugly logo. And what I did on the inside is I lined it with some leftover felt that I had to tamp down the noise. But like, this is the remainder of my collection. Room for more should I want to expand. I also have a little dice guardian here guarding the dice hoard. So he stays in there. So yeah, I mean, it's like a quick and dirty way of storing. Got some stickers here, but it'll do. And like I said, I have plenty of room. And this is just easy peasy, and I don't have to buy an extra thing. I do have a quick and dirty dice cup that I made from this mug. I am a mug collector, and so I buy my own mugs and then people gift me a lot of mugs. And this one is actually special because this was sent to me as part of a care package when I was really going through a rough time. So, and this friend knows me so well. Anyway, I decided to make this because it's just the vibe, right? I decided to make this into my dice cup. And once again, using just like leftover felt, I went ahead and lined it. I have unicorn felt on the bottom. So that is my dice cup. And then the rest of these are 3D printed off Matt's printer. We have 2 dice towers. I have been putting these on my reading altar, and I needed 2 different colors because depending on the reading cloth, you know, I need my shit to match. So yeah, and they're, you know, more of like a smaller petite size tower. And yeah, I think they work really well. And then finally, just this dice tray that once again, Matt made off the 3D printer. And I don't think he knew it was a dice tray. Like, he just randomly made it for me one day and was like, here. And I said, what is this? And he's like, I don't know, like some type of bowl that you could use. And I was just like, this actually looks like a dice tray. Just did a quick and dirty lining right there. And that really makes up the accessories. Now let us talk about how I use my dice with my decks, which is how I have always used them. And I mentioned it earlier in this video, and I have mentioned it before on my channel, which is that I use the dice to select my cards. And so far, that's really the only way I have been using them. I do have Dawn, Michelle, and Lisa's dice casting guide that I've printed out here, as well as, more recently, the Cast of the Wild divination system that Lennox has provided for free. This I haven't played around with yet because I just printed it out, but I'm really excited to dig into this one at some point. At this stage, I haven't been called to really use dice as its own divination system yet. I'm sure that in the future I will, which is precisely why, I've printed these things out. I did read Dawn and Lisa's guide. I found it to be, very intuitive. And I don't know, like, I just, at this point, I'm kind of perfectly content and having fun with using dice to just simply indicate the cards that I'm going to draw. So for anyone who wants to incorporate dice into their practice, but maybe you're not interested in learning another divination system at this time, then using dice simply to select your cards can be just an easy peasy fun way to incorporate that into your practice. And this doesn't mean that you have to abandon shuffling. Although, if the deck is huge, or the card stock is a problem, or like you're having hand pain, then certainly dice are a great help. But like, even with the decks that I can shuffle with no problem, I'm still using my dice with them because it's just fun for me. So I combine the two methods. I will first shuffle and then I will make use of the dice. For anyone who has seen my older demo video, feel free to skip this part. I have timestamps in the description box. So by all means, we will go ahead and use the Pussycat Tarot. And we'll just do a 2-card reading that I commonly use for a daily draw. And the first card will indicate, the potential vibe of the day. And then the second card will indicate the action or attitude that I could exercise in response to that potential energy. So I will first off still shuffle the deck because I very much do not want to get rid of shuffling in my practice. But when using dice, I do shuffle less than I normally would when not using dice. So maybe 2 or 3 times, and that's really it. And then maybe even just a quick overhand as well. And then let's go ahead and split this into 2 piles. Okay, now we'll only be using 2 dice, and the first dice will be to indicate which pile you're choosing from. And you can use any one of these because it's really just a matter of odd versus even. So if I get an even number, that means I will be choosing from this pile. If I get an odd number, I will be choosing from this pile. Now with the percentage die, these are all even numbers, but what I do is I just choose this one side, with the 10, 70, 30. I use that as my odd numbers, and then the other side is even. I don't really overthink it. And then for the other die that I use to actually choose the specific card within that pile, I typically use like the D12 or the D20, depending on how far into the pile I want to possibly count. If the deck has fewer cards, then I might want to choose, a D4, a D6, a D8. So totally up to you. But let us do, I don't know, let us do this fun D8 here, and we'll do the D12. Okay, so first card. So what is the potential energy of the day? Is it redundant to further randomize with the dice tower? Yes, but I don't care. Okay, so we have even number. That means we're going to choose from this pile. And we have 11, so we will be choosing the 11th card in this pile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11. Page of Cups. Okay, and then I'll just go ahead and place the rest of these cards on top. Okay, and we're ready to go again. right. So what is the attitude or action that I could adopt given the result of the first card? Okay, so we have odd. Be picking from this pile. The 8th card in. 1, 2, 4 of Cups. There we have it. That is how I use dice to choose my cards. Now it's time to get into some dice and deck pairings. Now, tarot readers who do layer their dice divination with their card readings might like to aesthetically match their dice to the fronts of their cards, because oftentimes, they're rolling their dice onto, their card spread. They've already pulled their cards, they're face up. So, and then they'll just toss the dice onto the cards, like on top of the cards or like alongside the cards. So that makes perfect sense that readers would want to match up their dice and decks in that manner. In contrast, because I don't use dice in that way, I match my dice with the backs. And as we saw in the demo, I'm not rolling my dice onto my deck itself, but I do set my dice on top of my deck or alongside my deck when they're both resting on my reading altar. And, sometimes I do take the front images into account. It's really dependent on my mood. I don't have any hard or fast rules about this. Because I do have a lot of decks, admittedly, several have not received a lot of dice play. And so moving forward, when I do get to those decks, it'll be fun to experiment with different combinations. So let's get into it and have some fun playing with pairs. First deck we're going to start with is Everyday Witch. You knew that had to happen, right? My go-to dice for this has been what I call my Halloween dice. They look great together, and I just think they complement each other so well. I wonder, maybe caramel? What do we think about that? Is it maybe a little dark? I mean, it doesn't have to be matchy-matchy. It's okay. Or we could even do black to match the Cat in the Hat. I think I like that. The Raven's Prophecy Tarot. Once again, this has been my favorite pairing. I have been having trouble matching dice with these backs. What about the white, the pearlescent white? How does that look? I don't hate it. I don't know if I love it. And contrary to what one might think, black in this case, given the shade of black, I don't know that I love this combination either. Because we have 2 different tones of black here, I'm just not feeling it. Tarot of the Cat, people. At the risk of being redundant, my Halloween set. I mean, come on. To diversify, I would also say we could do Moonbeam. It brings out the color of this background here, so I like that. And then also, Grass Emerald might be a nice option to bring out the green of the cat's tail. What do we think? I'm showing 2 different decks. On the left, we have Tarot of a Moon Garden. This is an older edition. On the right, we have Bangtan Tarot. And I'm showing these together because their backs are similar with regard to there being white, different colors incorporated. So this lends to there being a lot of different options in terms of dice pairings, a lot of the same like shared options. So for instance, my unicorn set, as well as the dark purple. Especially with Bangtan, I feel like I will probably lean toward my purple dice. If you know, you know. We have Arctic Sky, Moonbeam again, and then even something like a grass emerald, I think would look really nice. For Tarot of the Moon Garden, because unicorns are such a major motif in the deck, we could also use my D6 unicorn and then just take any die from any of these sets to pair it up with that. Onto the Llewellyn Tarot. This deck has been modified, so that's why the backs don't look completely symmetrical. With decks that have more earth tones, like the Llewellyn and some others that I have, I am way more limited in terms of my dice and deck pairings. I just don't have many dice options that complement earth tones, which I will have to remedy. But the first set that I had thought of for this deck was the caramel. But now that I am looking at this, I don't know that I love it. I think it's pretty mid, actually. But hear me out. I mean, right? I think this works. And I certainly prefer my Halloween set to the caramel. We could also do the pearlescent white, because that's kind of a neutral color. I don't think that's bad. Or what about even something like this? I do have like marbled blue and hunter green. Maybe too dark. I'm still leaning toward the Halloween set. So some of you may or may not know that I've been having a love affair with Tarot of the Guiding Muse. I've been using this deck a lot in the last few months, and my go-to dice for this deck has been this pair right here. My marbled oxidized copper and slate. I mean, can we get any better than that? I mean, maybe. I don't know, maybe we can. My star pair, the star glitter, I think that is a contender. The black, to pick up some of the black that we see on these backs, I actually do like that. All right, we have Murder of Crows on the left, Full for Tarot on the right. And can you guess which dice set I have in mind for these two? If you guessed Blood and Bone, you would be correct. And these two decks are examples of when I do take the card images themselves into consideration. Because as you can see here, I have modified this deck to include red and then Full for Tarot, also red and white. So, I mean, not only are these pairs aesthetically pleasing, but thematically on point. We could also do the candy red. That is very nice, in my personal opinion. Onto the Woodland Warden's Oracle. And I thought that given the nature-based theme of this deck, we could do, say, something like the D6 Bumblebee, along with maybe my marbled hunter green. Thoughts on this? I would do this pairing. Or we could even switch out the hunter green with, say, my shimmery white. How about caramel? I'm actually feeling the caramel. This is the Storyboard Tarot. It is a deck that I've been working with a lot recently, and my go-to dice set for this deck has been this pink shimmery set here that we saw in the demo. I have also used Moonbeam How about something like the black glitter? Do we like that? I don't know. Black and pink is a combo that I gravitate towards, so I'm not mad at that pairing. Spirit Keeper's Tarot. This is the Revelations edition. And my particular bias for this deck and dice pairing would be this right here. This is the mini festive carousel. Like, look at these colors. They just go so well with the center of this back, don't you think? Yeah, I love that. The blue glitter stars is also an option. It looks a little different in the camera, but like in person, this dice pair does quite nicely match the center jewel there in this design. We are concluding this part of the video with 3 decks. So on the left, we have Squid Cake Marseille. In the middle, we have the Mara Loon Tarot. And on the right, we have the Delos Tarot. And I think that for all 3 of these, the minty dice are a nice option, especially these 2 right here, since we do have those colors incorporated into the backs. But because, you know, this one is simpler in design, I think that the mint is complementary to the Delos as well. I had mentioned earlier when showing this set that I had maybe wanted like a slightly paler, like lighter shade of mint, but I think this works just fine. And then we have the rainbow set, Candy Rainbow. I think especially for these 2, the Candy Rainbow works well, and it does work. I think it works fine for Mara Loon, but for sure, I'm feeling the Delos and the Squid Cake Marseille. Okay, I just threw down some of my favorite sets here for visual interest, but the final part of this video is where I'll be covering the other ways that I use dice. And since I don't use them as their own divination, the only other way I've been using them is for dice games, specifically one dice game that I've been playing a lot lately. I mentioned D&D earlier, and I did look into it, predominantly solo gaming because I don't have anyone in my offline life who's interested in D&D. But like regardless, I came to the conclusion that, after watching some YouTube videos, I do know that there are also like solo D&D books out there, but really at the end of it all, I came to the conclusion that D&D is not for me at this point in time. So I did some looking into solo dice games that aren't RPGs or like role-playing games. And I've bookmarked a few, but currently there is one that I've been playing a lot, and it's called Stellar Storm. So this is a solo game. I think you can play it with other players, but I'll go ahead and leave the link. It is free. And to me, it gives Farkle, which is another dice game. And the goal of that game is to be the first player to reach like a certain number of points. And basically, you are trying to score certain pairings and combinations and going to take the risk of rolling so that you can gain more points, but then you also could possibly lose points. So I feel like Stellar Storm was very much inspired by that game. One of the differences between the 2 is that with Farkle, you are using only D6s, but with Stellar Storm, you are actually using the D&D set, and you are using all but 2 dice. So I really liked that aspect of the game. And I like that it felt familiar, something that was easy to pick up. And the premise of this game is that your ship is trying to navigate this very dangerous storm, and it needs to draw energy from like different celestial bodies, and that's how you're racking up your points. So you go through 10 rounds to make it to the minimum number of points, and you're supposed to play beyond those 10 rounds if you don't reach that number, but I just stop at 10, and either I've made it or I haven't, game over. So that's what I find really appealing about Stellar Storm. I think the rules are easy to learn. It's just a fun way to use D&D dice, and the game does not take that long to complete. And that's a wrap. So if you stuck with me through the whole thing, thank you. I know that I had tons of fun doing this. I'm definitely, for better or worse, I'm a dice goblin now. Do you have any interest in incorporating dice into your practice? Or perhaps you already have. Do let me know your experiences and your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll catch you soon.